Hey, welcome to World Code Updates. In June 2013, Nicaragua stunned the world with an audacious announcement, a plan to build a canal to rival Panama's, one that would forever alter the geography and economy of Central America. President Daniel Ortega's government unveiled a vision for a 173-mile waterway, deeper and wider than the legendary Panama Canal, slicing through dense jungle, fertile farmland, and the vast expanse of Lake Nicaragua. The route would cut the continent in two, promising to transform Nicaragua into a global shipping crossroads. The canal was designed to welcome the world's largest ships, vessels so massive they couldn't fit through Panama's locks. It would open new trade routes, allowing supertankers and mega container ships to bypass the bottleneck of Panama and reach new markets faster. Backed by Chinese billionaire Wang Jing and his mysterious company HKND, the project came with a staggering $50 billion price tag and a 50-year concession. The scale of foreign investment was unprecedented in Nicaragua's history, raising both hopes and suspicions. Ortega called it a path to national redemption, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to double Nicaragua's GDP and lift millions from poverty. He promised jobs, prosperity, and a brighter future for generations to come. Law 840 rushed through the National Assembly with little debate, gave HKND sweeping powers to expropriate land, often with minimal compensation and almost no recourse for those affected. The law's passage was as swift as it was controversial. The speed and secrecy of the process left ordinary Nicaraguans anxious and fearful about their land, their homes, and their future. Many wondered if their voices would ever be heard. In December 2014, Ortega and Wang Jing broke ground in a lavish ceremony heavy on spectacle but light on substance. Golden shovels, fireworks, and confetti filled the air, but concrete details remained scarce. The world's media descended on Managua, eager to witness Nicaragua's bold claim to a place on the global stage, financed by Chinese capital in America's backyard. The project drew both excitement and skepticism from around the globe. The project was no longer a distant dream, it was happening, or so it seemed. For many, the sight of heavy machinery breaking ground was a symbol of hope and progress. The first shovels of dirt marked the start of a story filled with hope, controversy, and ultimately, disappointment. As months passed, optimism gave way to uncertainty and unrest. The vision was grand, but the details were troubling. Questions mounted about environmental impact, financial transparency, and the true intentions behind the project. The government's sweeping promises clashed with the reality of rushed laws, unchecked foreign power, and growing public resistance. Tensions simmered as protests erupted across the country. For many, the canal was a symbol of possibility and national pride. For others, it was a looming threat to their way of life, their land, and their identity. The world watched and waited, wondering if Nicaragua could truly pull off the impossible and reshape the map of global trade. But beneath the fanfare and bold promises, cracks were already forming, signs that this grand vision might not survive the harsh realities ahead. The Nicaragua Canal was more than just an engineering feat. It was a symbol of ambition and transformation for a nation long overshadowed on the world stage. It was a bold geopolitical statement, signaling a dramatic shift in the balance of power in Central America. President Ortega's alliance with Chinese billionaire Wang Jing and the HKND Group marked a decisive pivot toward China, bypassing traditional Western conditions, oversight, and influence that had long shaped Nicaragua's policies. The promised $50 billion investment dwarfed Nicaragua's entire economy, with HKND granted sweeping control for half a century, including extensive tax exemptions and legal privileges. Details of the deal, shrouded in secrecy and closed-door negotiations, sparked widespread fears that Nicaragua was trading away its sovereignty for the hope of sudden wealth and global relevance. Critics saw Law 840 as a massive giveaway, passed with little public input, no competitive bidding, and almost no transparency, fueling anger and suspicion among ordinary Nicaraguans. For China, the canal was a perfect fit for its Belt and Road ambitions, offering a new strategic shipping route between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, and expanding its influence far beyond Asia. The project directly challenged long-standing U.S. dominance in the region, placing a massive Chinese-controlled asset right in the heart of Central America, just south of America's doorstep. For Nicaragua, it was a high-stakes gamble, betting its future on a partnership with the East, hoping for prosperity but risking dependency. The partnership was less about business deals and more about shifting global power, as new alliances began to redraw the world's political and economic map. The world watched with anticipation and concern as Managua and Beijing redrew the map, raising questions about the future of global trade and influence. But the risks of secrecy, imbalance, and the potential for exploitation loomed large, casting a shadow over the promise of progress. For many Nicaraguans, the canal was a beacon of hope. Officials promised tens of thousands of jobs, new ports, free trade zones, and a transformed economy. Nicaragua would become a hub of global commerce, a Central American Singapore. The project was sold as a ticket out of poverty, a legacy for Ortega's Sandinista movement. The promise of prosperity rallied national pride and support, even as details remained vague. Yet, the projections were wildly optimistic, with little independent verification. Few questioned how wealth would be distributed, or how corruption would be prevented. The benefits seemed destined for political and business elites. For those living along the canal's path, the dream felt more like a threat to their homes and way of life. The hope for a new dawn was shadowed by uncertainty and risk. The canal announcement rattled Washington. For over a century, the U.S. had seen Central America as its sphere of influence, with the Panama Canal as its crown jewel. A Chinese-backed rival so close to home was a direct challenge. American officials questioned the project's viability, but their real concern was strategic. A Chinese-controlled canal could shift the military balance. For Panama, the threat was existential. Their canal was the nation's lifeblood. Officials downplayed the risk, but anxiety simmered beneath the surface. The Nicaraguan project threatened to siphon off traffic and revenue. The region became a chessboard for US-China rivalry, with other Latin American nations watching closely. The canal was more than a waterway, it was a fault line in global power. The tremors were felt from Washington to Panama City. The canal's biggest obstacles were money and the environment. The $50 billion price tag was staggering, and Wang Jing's fortune was nowhere near enough. Major banks and investors steered clear, wary of the risks and lack of transparency. The economic case was shaky. Panama's expanded canal already handled most global shipping needs. The Nicaraguan route needed massive traffic to break even, but projections didn't add up. Environmental concerns were just as dire. The canal would cut through Lake Nicaragua, threatening drinking water and fragile ecosystems. Billions of tons of earth would be moved, devastating rainforests and wetlands. The government's environmental review was rushed and widely criticized. Investors and environmentalists alike balked at the risks. The dream was colliding with hard financial and ecological realities. At the heart of the canal saga was Wang Jing, a little-known Chinese telecom entrepreneur. He appeared suddenly, promising to fund and build one of the world's largest engineering projects. HKND, his company, was newly formed, with no track record in infrastructure. Speculation swirled. Was HKND a front for the Chinese state or just a shell company? Wang's fortune soared with the Chinese stock market, then crashed in 2015, wiping out billions. With his wealth gone, the canal's financial foundation crumbled. HKND's operations in Nicaragua ground to a halt. Promised studies and construction never materialized. Wang Jing faded from view, leaving behind broken promises and unanswered questions. The project's fate was tied to the fortunes of one enigmatic man. When he vanished, so did the canal's prospects. While leaders debated, rural Nicaraguans faced losing everything. The canal's path threatened to displace up to 120,000 people, farmers, indigenous communities, and fishing villages. Law 840 meant land could be seized with little compensation. This sparked a powerful grassroots movement led by campesinos, indigenous leaders, and activists. They organized marches, blockades, and protests, demanding their voices be heard. Francisca Chica Ramirez emerged as a fearless leader, rallying communities and drawing international attention. The movement exposed the project's deep social and political fault lines. Persistent resistance undermined the government's narrative of popular support. Investors grew wary as protests continued. The voice of ordinary Nicaraguans became a force the government and HKND couldn't ignore. The groundbreaking ceremony in 2014 was the canal's high point. Soon after, activity stalled, machinery vanished, HKND's offices closed, and promised investment never arrived. The government insisted the project was merely delayed, but on the ground, nothing moved. Wang Jing's financial collapse in 2015 was a fatal blow. HKND lost all credibility. The canal became a ghost project, existing only in government rhetoric and the lingering Law 840. By 2018, Nicaragua was engulfed in political crisis, sealing the canal's fate. International support evaporated, and the government's focus shifted to survival. The fields and forests along the route remained untouched. The grand vision faded into silence and disillusionment. The thousands of promised jobs never appeared. The prosperity never arrived. The canal's legal framework lingered, a reminder of what might have been. The great waterway simply vanished. The failure of the Nicaragua Canal stands as a powerful reminder for the world, offering hard lessons that resonate far beyond Central America. This ambitious project, once hailed as a transformative opportunity, ultimately became a cautionary tale. Top-down development imposed without transparency or genuine public consent inevitably breeds resistance, mistrust, and more often than not, failure. When people are left out of the decision-making process, their opposition can become a formidable barrier. Secretive deals and unchecked foreign influence can undermine national sovereignty and erode public trust, making it difficult to build lasting partnerships or achieve sustainable progress. While Chinese investment may seem tempting for developing nations, it demands rigorous due diligence, transparency, and strong legal safeguards to protect national interests and ensure fair outcomes. Law 840's sweeping powers, which bypass local rights and environmental protections, serve as a stark warning to other nations considering similar paths. Environmental and social impacts can't be sidelined for the sake of economic dreams. True progress must balance growth with the preservation of nature and communities. The canal threatened vital ecosystems and the livelihoods of countless families, reminding us that real development must always be sustainable and inclusive. Grassroots activism proved powerful. Ordinary people, united in purpose, defended their land, their homes, and their dignity against overwhelming odds. The campesino movement showed that community voices matter, even when facing governments and billionaires. Their determination inspired others to stand up for their rights. The canal was never built, but the resistance left a lasting legacy of empowerment and hope for future generations. The story is a testament to the enduring power of public engagement, environmental stewardship, and the importance of collective action. Megaprojects must ultimately serve people, not just profit or politics, and must be guided by the needs and voices of those most affected. In Nicaragua, a colossal dream faded, but its lessons endure, reminding us that the true measure of progress is found in the well-being of people and the land they call home.